It's a little past 8 o'clock, time for the briefing to begin. When we go into regular session, Mr. Pate, if you would do the
Yes, sir.
invocation. Mr. Doherty, the pledge of allegiance to the flag. When we go into approval of the minutes. Before this discussion of, to adjust the amendment, I would like to, get the feelings of the rest of the board on, we were invited for lunch today out at the Farm Bureau, and last year we were in a pretty lengthy meeting and, showed up out there late. I'd like for us to, go into recess about maybe 11:45 and go out and have lunch with them, and then come back and finish our business. If that's
I'm good.
okay.
Yep, that's fine.
All righty. All right. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, sir.
There's a budget amendment for 219, which would be, there's a corrected replacement that Marcia's passing out.
Back here.
A presentation from Services on Aging. Unfinished business. That has been mentioned, so I would think that that would be under unfinished business. Number 5.
Senior Center and the Gateway.
And
That'd be number 5 under unfinished business.
yes, sir.
And what was that again?
Presentation from the Services on Aging concerning the rate increases that Gateway has just announced.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This indicates a change in the rates from Gateway. Is it possible to have Gateway representative here to answer any questions on rate changes and where we might be going for this coming year with the budget?
That would be the pleasure of the board if
Gateway has promised to come before the board and present their rate changes and all the new agenda for their program. So I don't know if at this time, it's not etched in stone. It's just something that when we talked, the last time we talked, my recommendation was to meet with both boards, the city and the county, and along with the Service on Aging, and talk about the funding mechanism. So I don't know how you want to do it.
My questioning was that if any questions come up in reference to this, keeping it in context with this specific subject matter, the senior center, along with you, Mr. Bell, and Mr. Pate, myself, were called to an emergency meeting that the senior center had last week, and it was in reference to increase in transportation that was going to increase possibly or have an effect on their service, possibly affecting an increase in their rates. And if there are any questions on transportation, as far as grants, I'd like to have some questions that I have in due of the transportation changes. And I didn't know if someone would be here to answer those questions.
Mr. Chairman. Well, that date for the change, that was going to be February the 1st, is that correct? So we wouldn't be meeting again until February, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Bell, but it might be a good idea to have someone here since, it's going to be instituted February the 1st, and we won't have a chance to answer those questions before this thing starts. Just my feeling.
all right, can
Call.
Marcia, can someone give them a call and have them here, please? I don't know what time.
Well, what, and what the clerk was just telling me is that it would be helpful if we could make it at a specific time this afternoon, because you've got your plate pretty much full. I think you'll have to be back here after lunch,
No doubt.
without question. You think that if you start at 12 out there, that would be safe to say that you could have that at 2 o'clock this afternoon?
Let's shoot, let's shoot for 2 o'clock.
And we'll get somebody after the briefing to call Lynn Lamberth to get her.
Erin will call, and she needs to contact her board members.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Is that all the adjustments under unfinished business?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add one other one, to consider purchasing an acre of land to put the tower on in the eastern part of the county. I have asked, Mel Powers has been instrumental in working to try to get that done, and I believe they're going to try to have a map so you can see exactly where it is. But there's, you can purchase an acre for $17,500, and the other land that had been offered and made available was going to cost you, it was not for sale, but they wanted to lease it, and it was going to be $1,000 a month. So it's thought that the purchase, if you purchase it, then you haven't got to worry about the lease going up, and it's within the area that RCC said that they needed to have the tower for their program. So I would ask that you put that on as unfinished business number 6.
Okay. So if we're gonna have the service on ages at 2, probably have Mel here at 2:30 or 3?
That would be fine.
3 o'clock? And if it, well, we can have him here at 2:30 and then if we get through with the other.
He's going to try to get a copy of the map up here before the meeting starts at 9, so that
Okay.
everybody can have a look at it.
Okay, all
Mr. Chairman,
right. Mr. Camardi.
I'm not sure exactly where you want to put this, but in response to an update on the Steele Memorial Library, Lynn Williams has made a tour of that, and I asked her to come in and give her impressions of where that project is.
Okay, well, we had you to give us that update. You just want her to do it in your place?
Pretty much. I have some written stuff, but she's been inside on a tour. I was informed last week, and so in that conversation, I asked her to come up.
Let her present hers whenever Mr. Camardi was going to bring us up on what he knew about the library.
Is that under Board of Commissioner Committee reports?
That's where I would have talked about it at.
Yes, sir.
That'll give us from 9:15, we have a public hearing at 9:15? And what time does,
Well, we can work her in at any
your 10
time.
o'clock, your work session begins at 10 o'clock
Right.
after comments? It's gonna give us about 35 minutes to do all this business.
I think she's amenable to coming in any time of the day. I just didn't want her to be up here waiting so long for, and then I told her I would call her whenever we could schedule her in the agenda, so whatever is the most convenient time is what I'd like to.
As tight as the schedule is this morning, it's going to you know, if she's got very much to say, it's gonna probably be this afternoon.
That would be fine.
Just have her up here and we'll, you know, we'll work it in whenever
All right.
we can.
Sound like someone's gonna do something about later. What's the feeling? I can let them know it's this afternoon. 3? All right, 3 o'clock. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King?
There's been a group of individuals, including myself and Commissioner Bell, and County Manager Lee Smith. There's been a couple of City Councilman Allen in Broadway, Scott Stevens, City Manager Jimmy Evanson, Henry Smith, and Ben Seegers. We've been planning and meeting and interviewing consultants for over 6 months, and this proposal has just been presented to us, and this past Thursday, late, Mr. Seegers asked if he could get on the agenda this morning. The group believes that it is critical to proceed with the plan to hire these consultants now, and they also are in the efforts of raising private funds from the citizens of Goldsboro and throughout Wayne County. We need to sign and obligate this process with the consultants February 1 and starting February 1 for a 12-month period. And Mr. Seegers and Mr. Smith would like to come this morning and get on the agenda and present their request. And I was wondering if we could put that under new business and move it to the forefront, so Mr. Smith could get back to his law firm, and Mr. Seegers has, after 11 o'clock, he's unavailable. They wanted to push this through so they could begin February 1st. And Mr. Seegers and Mr. Smith would like to come in and do it first thing.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to comment on that too. This is a very important request because some of my good friends in Raleigh have told me that this, and hold your pen, Mr. that they are not supporting Seymour right now. They're supporting Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune. So it's going to be very important that we get a consultant out to negotiate for Seymour Johnson Air Force Base.
Is it possible we can move them in between 9:15 and 10 o'clock under new business line item?
Pleasure of the board. I mean, we can try to squeeze it in. Do you know how much time are they?
No more than
need?
10 minutes.
Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's a good idea because I got a telephone call about that last week myself. So it's
Mr.
not
Chairman.
real.
Mr. Darty.
Just a quick question. Is this an action item today? as
Yes,
well?
sir.
It would be?
Yes, sir.
So they're going to make a presentation in regards to what their recommendations are?
Yes, sir.
And it would require a budget amendment.
It would require a budget.
That funds would have to come out of the general fund,
Fund balance, yes.
fund balance.
After, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, after the presentation and so forth, and I take it that a motion would be forthcoming and we vote on that, then as far as the budget amendment, we would ask Ms. Holt to go ahead and prepare one of those and we could act on that later.
I would recommend that if you're going to move to sign the agreement, that you include the budget
Okay, in the motion.
amendment in it.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Mr.
And
Chairman.
that would be, if, I was not aware of what Commissioner King said, that it was for a year, but what the budget amendment would be is just the rest of this fiscal year. You would then budget it in your next, at your next budget for the other 7 months.
That's correct. They were trying to give the board an idea of what it would take to get through June 30th this year. And of course, us working the rest of the monies on the budget 14-15. But we have allocated $60,000 a year for the last 3 years, I believe. And the city has also allocated $60,000. And the balance we have in our account's about 20,000 plus or minus a couple of thousand. Same thing with the city. And they are beginning this contract February 1st and needing some funds to move from February 1st to January 30. But because of the interviews that have been going on with Commissioner Bell and myself and the others that I've mentioned, they wanted to implement this February 1 and saw that they would be short in funding. And they are recommending that, that we move on this. But I had asked them to come before the board and present the request before the board.
Could, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty.
could you enlighten us in regards to the amount of that funding?
They would do that. They have all those funds that they would request.
Okay.
But they want to come and present it, their request before the board. Mr. Chairman, I would certainly, because of their business and because everyone's busy, but they are pushing to have this done maybe first thing this morning. So between 9:15 and 10 o'clock, if we could maybe put that as a first line item under new business and just move that line item up to act on one way or the other between 9:15 and 10 o'clock.
Everyone in agreement? Put that in, Marcia, please.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor.
I've been involved in several MAC meetings, and the consensus is, and I agree with it, is that even though the state is going to have representation for our military and bases, we feel that when a BRAC does come up, that we as a county need to do everything we can to make sure we need to not leave any stone unturned to make sure that we have complete and total representation in 2016 or whenever the next BRAC is coming up. So the consensus is, and I agree, is that no one can represent Wayne County and Seymour Johnson Air Force Base like the citizens and elected officials of Wayne County. So my understanding is that we need to do everything we can just to make sure that we are heard in Washington. And in order to do that, we really need to have our own lobbying group also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone else?
Just for information purposes, Camp Lejeune area has 3 consultants right now, active.
Thank you. Any other adjustments to new business? Parker, Marcia? Moving on to consent agenda. Any changes to that?
No,
David here, if anybody has any questions about the exemptions.
Anyone have any? Want David to go over the exemptions?
Flip over there to that. What page are we on that?
Page 35, it's where its consent agenda starts.
Forty-two.
Could I inquire a little bit from Mr. Ward? Could you give us,
David, please.
could you give an explanation on the homestead exclusion?
Okay, on the homestead exclusion, that one is for disabled veteran homestead exclusion. And had the person applied timely, they would have qualified on that. Yes, homestead exclusion, we have what's called a elderly and disabled homestead exclusion. There's also a veterans, which is a separate thing, homestead exclusion. Disabled, if somebody is a honorably retired or honorably discharged veteran who has a 100% disability, the VA certifies that, they provide us with the documentation, and had this person applied timely, they would have qualified.
And what does that encompass in regards to the exclusion?
The exclusion is $45,000. In other words, if their house is valued at $100,000, they would only pay on the $55,000 is what they would pay on. And what we call the elderly disability homestead exclusion, now that one's a little different. If you qualify on that one, you get a minimum of $25,000 value off of your property, or one-half the value, whichever is greater. So the two are a little different as far as what you receive.
Is that just elderly or elderly with some conditions?
Yeah, it's what it is elderly if you're 65 years of age or older, or totally and permanently disabled, okay? And there are income requirements on that one. You have to, there's a threshold there, you can't receive but a certain amount of money to qualify for that one. Okay. On the veterans, there is no income requirement, but that is 45,000, period, that's it, as far as the value adjustment.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could wait for just a minute since he's here, could I ask him also another question? On these solar farms, is there any change in use value when it changes over to a lease on a solar farm?
If someone sets up a solar farm, if they're under present use value, they will lose that classification, and we'll put it back at our market value as of. In other words, if someone put one in during 13, if a 14, they would lose that classification.
Well, I had several people asking me that, so it would change.
Yes. If they have present use value on it. If they don't have present use value on it, we'll have to take a look at it as far as from a market value standpoint based on our last reval, how we've got it priced.
Mr. Chairman, well, I got you here, Dave. The part about the disabled veterans and 100% and that kind of thing, and I know you know the law and you can just, spit it out. But could you put that in, written form and send that to me? I'd really love to share that with my veterans group so they could get the word out for my disabled veterans, because I'd be willing to bet a lot of them don't know about it.
Yeah.
And perhaps that can keep us from having to do this all the time.
Yeah, and we, as a matter of fact, Aaron was here earlier, we actually do a presentation each year at the Senior Center for Elderly, folks like that, and we'd be glad to get some information to you.
If you would, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Be glad to.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else on the consent agenda? At 10 o'clock, we have our public comment section. We also, at 10 o'clock, we have the work session scheduled, so it may be 10 past or so before we can get started on that work session.
I have notified the attorney for the Board of Education that that's going to be, and told him that if he had any interest in coming to hear that presentation, he could come, and to please make sure that the superintendent and the board, his board, knew about it. I've offered, if they don't feel like they could come, that we could make a CD for them and get it to them so they would have the same information that you're having.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King.
With that said, from Mr. Parker, I would like to suggest that Barbara, the tape be made specifically of the work session. So if it's part of another tape, it'd be stopped, and just a tape be of just the work session. And then when we show it on YouTube, it'd be specific and labeled as education, whatever, however you want to title it. Easy to, that would be easy to send to anyone that is requesting just that part.
Do you have any comments that you want to make on the public hearing?
On the public hearing you have at 9:15, we've not received any questions or concerns from adjoining property owners. We did run an ad. I would normally posted a sign, notified adjoining property owners by mail. I've not heard from any of them. Any questions on any of that?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. King.
question for Mr. Price in reference to public hearings. When was the public hearing scheduled for the solar facilities?
It's February 18th, I believe it is.
Second meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
About a month of the day, I guess.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Mr. Price. Has there been any discussion at the planning board regarding maybe modifying their recommendation
On,
on the solar farm
no, I guess they were.
recommendation?
No, sir, I mean, I guess they sent you the recommendation, and then they were going, I believe the process was going to be have the public hearing. After the public hearing, if there were significant comments for it, or, in a suggested changes way, it may be appropriate then for you to send it back to the planning board for them to review those changes. If what's presented at the hearing, everyone's happy with it, that speaks, and maybe you want to act on it then, but it would be appropriate to send it back to the planning board probably after the public hearing, because they don't really have anything else to consider right now. Other than they sent forward what they recommended, what they felt was appropriate.
Well, in that I've got some concerns, and I'm not going to be out there speaking to the board as such. At what point are we going to be looking at it to possibly make some changes? I mean, my understanding was we were going to proceed on with the recommendation of the planning board, have the public hearing, and then after that time, then we can review it and possibly make some modifications.
You can do it that day or put it on
Another.
on another agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Price?
While he's here, you might want to look at number 2 under unfinished business, the joint land use study. Is Dennis Goodman?
I don't know if Dennis will be here.
You have some information.
I got, right now, I don't know if it's available. Is it available where they can? It's probably not where we can pull it up, is it? You've got some information provided to you by Dennis Goodson, or provided to the planning board. And the planning board looked at what the purposes of the study was. Dennis Goodson is the ex officio member of the planning board from Seymour Johnson. He came to our last meeting and explained what the purpose of the study is. Planning board's recommended that the resolution be adopted. It's presented to you. I think it's probably in line a lot with what apparently you're adding to your agenda today. It will fall in line with that, I believe.
First cousin.
But this will work with Wayne, I believe, Beaufort, Hyde, Dare, Terrell, Washington counties. Mostly the counties down east that are affected by planes from Seymour Johnson flying over, going to the Dare County bombing range. And when they're making that approach, they want to be able to fly low, and how that encroachments might affect their flight paths.
Anything, Mr. King? Got that look on your face.
I'll be glad to read a resolution and have anything to say on that,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
okay. Any other changes? Mr. Powers and Mr. Gurley came in after we had started our briefing. Mr. Parker had stated that they would have a map showing the parcel land that, again, is considered buying for the East Tower site. do it right quick or put it on the wall or? Well, if you would kind of explain to the commissioners, you and Mr. Parker, you know, where the partial is and,
This is Hood Swamp Road, which is in the northern part of the county. Dogwood Estates, new development here. This is the parcel of land, and then right here, you see the edge of the wood line. This is where we would cut that acre out, have a 30-foot easement from Hood Swamp Road to get into it. That's what it is.
and Mel has done his, the legwork on it. And, Mr. Parker, if you would, you can bring us up to, we've signed an intent to say, to purchase or waiting for approval of the board.
After Mel was able to find this property, I took it upon myself to prepare an option and paid $1,000.
Thank you very much. The county appreciates that.
To secure the option, so if you decide to approve it today, that will go toward the purchase price, and I hope that I will be reimbursed.
I have a quick question.
And, Mr. Pate?
I saw the map the other day, and I forgot to ask this question about it, and I know it's a good price on that, in the scheme of things, it's not that large amount of money. But is this gonna be extra dollars we're gonna pay out, or is this gonna come out of the money we voted for the RCC contract? Is this in addition to it, or?
Yes, this did not come out of the contract price.
Okay,
This
I
will be in
just a question I
addition.
wanted to ask.
And that was stated, when we were
I couldn't remember.
negotiating the contract and all, that was stated in conversation, so Marshall could pull it back up if, at some point if someone needs it, but this was above and beyond what the RCC contract is. That was-
Okay.
And we knew that up front from the beginning. But like Mr. Parker says, we looked at the option of leasing a piece of property or either purchasing a piece of property, and we found someone that would lease a piece of property to the county, but they were wanting $1,000 a month. And then, Mel found this piece of property, and we just felt like that it was a whole lot more advantageous to the county to purchase acre land for $17,500 than lease a piece for 20 years at $1,000 a month.
I agree.
You don't have to be real bright to figure that one out.
Mr. Chairman, I
Mr.
had a
Doherty.
question on that. Is it my understanding that RCC has reviewed this site and agreed that was, they recommend us purchasing this site? In other words, are they okay with this site?
Yes, sir. What they had given us was where the ideal site was, and then they gave us a radius around that, said if we go inside this radius, we will be fine. And the land we found was well within that radius. So they've already looked at it, they've done the studies on it at this location,
Everything's good?
yes. Yeah, we should have the updated maps Thursday showing if there's any coverage change at all, we'll see them Thursday on this. But they are very confident that we're not going to see hardly any changes.
As long as they've signed off on this particular location of that tower.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That's no problem.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor.
Chairman, I got
Mr.
a couple
King.
of questions. The 17,500, how was that price established for an acre of land?
Mr. Parker?
I think Mel can probably answer it, but the answer is that's what they were willing to sell it for, and the county needed some property in that general area.
Okay, who was the seller?
Sellers,
Seymour?
Ms. G.F. Seymour, Ms. Elizabeth Seymour.
And does the access follow a property line going to the property?
Yes, sir.
It follows a property line, it's not off in the middle somewhere?
No, sir, it
Okay.
follows the property line.
Okay. Was the property farming, or was it is it woods,
Woodland.
woodland? And I guess this is for the city, the planner, Connie Price, for comprehensive land use planning. I know you needed it specifically in that area. The comprehensive land use plan, does it indicate that this would be an area that would be looked at in the future for residential or commercial?
Pretty sure it's not commercial, but I'd have to look at, our map to be sure, but I think it's in this, what's classified as a rural area, either rural or rural enclave, because there's very little out there that's, other than just residential.
And the tower doesn't fall in any area of ACUS?
No, so that was one of the reasons
Like-
they picked the area they did. They initially looked at some areas that were in a zoned area that had a height restriction, and they moved it outside of those areas to the area that was picked, and so they did get with me earlier in the process on that.
And these towers are built so when they fall straight down and won't fall over,
Yes, sir,
hitting
they're
other
built-
houses or residents within,
They're built at zero radius fall.
okay.
Now, just for your information, Mr. King, Mr. Price was involved with, from, as soon as they found the partial, Mr. Price and the planning department was involved in helping secure it or make sure that it was in the right location and met all the criteria.
And leaving, DOT has no issue leaving the main road, and there will have to be some preparation there, concrete, so forth. You got a price on that in general?
As far as the improvements to the
Yes.
land itself?
Yes.
Driveway permit.
Oh, no, sir, not yet.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
And the county will have to also pay for a survey of that property that has not been surveyed and that has not been ordered until we could determine the position of the board with respect to this acre.
Okay. Mr. Parker, do we need to go into closed session? Have you got anything that?
I don't think it's necessary today.
Mr. Mayor?
I just wanted to mention, under unfinished business, the North Carolina's Eastern Region Trust Funds that is on the agenda. We just gave some information to you about the Eastern Region Funds, and Commissioner Bell and I sit on that board, and I just wanted to let you know that that information is before you. We've had a little bit of a change as far as we're sort of in a compressed time situation, and I would like to bring that up during this part of the agenda, Mr. Bell and I.
Okay. Just, y'all can handle it under unfinished business under the Eastern Region. That'll be all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. You okay with that, Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Anything else pertaining to the agenda? Not, do I hear a motion that we recess until the regular meeting?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? Call the meeting to order, 9 o'clock meeting to conduct the business for Wayne County Commissioners. Mr. Pate, will you give invocation, please?
Sure will, sir. Let's bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of the community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect the staff and the citizens of Wayne County. And continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth for the greater glory of you, for the service of humanity. We ask these in your name. Amen.
Mr. Jordan, pledge of allegiance, please.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Pate, Mr. Doherty. Approval of minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion on the floor that the minutes are approved. All in favor, show of right hand. Carries. I would like to again mention before we go into the adjustments, that we are going to try to break about 11:45 to have lunch with Farm Bureau, and then we'll come back and finish the business. And one other announcement I need to make that I have just found out, the Wayne County Firemen's Association banquet that was scheduled for tonight with the inclement weather coming in has been canceled for tonight and will be held the third Tuesday night in February at Lane Tree. So there will not be a banquet tonight. Adjustments to the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, on unfinished business, there'll be addition number 5. The Services on Aging will make a presentation, and that will be scheduled for 2 p.m. On number 6, under unfinished business, there will be consideration of purchase of property. Number under reports, there will be a report at 3 p.m. from Ms. Lynn Williams concerning the Steele Memorial Library and how it's coming along down in Mount Olive. And under new business, you would add a presentation from Henry Smith and Ben Seegers concerning Seymour Support Council. And that would be heard early on this morning.
Any other adjustments?
Change the budget amendment 219.
Right, on a new page 30, budget amendment 219 was modified. That was concerning literacy connections.
Any others? We got about 10 minutes before the public hearing. You want to go ahead and have a couple of commissioners' comments, or? Trying to figure out which one got the shortest comments.
It's hard to say, isn't it?
Mr. Bale, are you prepared to give your comments?
No, mine's gonna last about 20 minutes. I'm sorry. Yes, I called Mr. Lassiter at the State Department, North Carolina State, and about concerning the Wayne Correctional Center, and I'm waiting on a call. He's gonna call me back sometime this morning, so I'll give that jail report when he called back, so I can find out if they have made any decisions, whether or not they're gonna let us have that building or not. I'm going to hold on the Council on Aging because Aaron's going to come and give a report, so I'll hold on that. I won't discuss that. And that's about all I have.
Mr. Pate, you got over 5 minutes?
Yeah, mine's gonna take a little while, so if you want to wait on me, you can.
Mr. Camardi?
2 minutes.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Camardi.
I'm going to not share the Steele Memorial Library comments as related to the library committee that I serve on, because Lynn Williams, as was stated a few minutes ago, Lynn Williams will be up to give a report, and that she has toured the facility. I did ask our sending the email to the builders last week, and they did send me back a report, but I'm gonna even wait to read into that and give her the opportunity to speak first later this afternoon. Other things that was attended as committees, the Wayne County Planning with Mr. Price last week. Wages, I saw them walk in but left. I met with them last week, and they're moving along. And over the weekend, which wasn't part of a committee report, but I had the opportunity to attend two Dr. King celebrations, one in Mount Olive and one in Goldsboro, well attended. And I would only like to say to the public that it is important to all of us that we remember the things that Dr. King left us with. And I would just like to read one of his quotes. "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And that's the one important thing we need to try to remember as a group of people. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara. Mr. Parker, do we have to wait exactly to 9:15 to have the public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Doherty?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Fit right in there.
Not 4 minutes, but 3 minutes.
I attended the Board of Health meeting, and the Board of Health has implemented a tobacco-free campus policy for all the properties occupied by the health department. The board voted unanimously for that, and I think that's sending a clear message that smoking is harmful, secondhand smoke as well. Our clients are doing much, much better in paying their fees, which have led to a reduction in the write-offs at the health department. Services are not free. Someone has to pay. We all have to pay our part for the services that we receive so that others are not burdened with our fees. I rode along and attended the seminar at the Institute of Government to have a better understanding of the duties and responsibilities of vice chairman and chairman of board of commissioners, and it was well worth that trip. The hospital board met last week and continues to grapple with the Blue Cross issue. The board continues to work on a daily basis trying to resolve that issue as quickly as possible. I attended the Highway 70 Corridor Committee meeting in Moorhead. We look forward to the economic impact report for I-795 and US 70. That report was supposed to be given by the end of December, and it has been delayed somewhat. We're hoping that that will be released in the next few weeks. I enjoyed the breakfast and the event honoring Dr. King, and enjoyed the comments of my fellow commissioner, Mr. Cromartie. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 3 minutes.
Okay. I think that
9:13, I'm sorry.
I got 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Mr. Mayor.
On one of the boards that I'm on, I only had one meeting on January 8th. The Wayne County Development Alliance, we had our board meeting, and we're still in the process of developing a progress report, getting it together for the year 2013 that we can share with the county as to our economic development progress. And we're also finalizing plans for 2014 with 2 emphases on one on helping existing businesses and also developing creative ways to attract new businesses. The second thing is that yesterday, has already been mentioned, the Martin Luther King celebration. This one was particularly extra special to me because the guest speaker, Mr. James Stewart, grew up in Birmingham, Alabama during the civil rights movement, and he described inexplicable abuse during this time. He gave us a first-hand knowledge of what it was like. So Mr. Stewart has dedicated his life to spreading the message of racial change. And he was able to do this, and he publicly said he was able to do this because of Jesus Christ. He turned to a Christian, and that allowed him to forgive and move on. This celebration was a reminder to all of us that while there has much been accomplished, there is still much to be done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is it 9:15 yet?
It is, exactly.
9:15, the public hearing, proposed amendments to the Wayne County zoning map to rezone part of 3865 US Highway 117 South alternate from residential agricultural 20 to community shopping zone. Public,
Have Mr. Price come up and explain.
Price.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You've got before you, I think on the screen, it shows proposed rezoning a tract of land in Brogden Township, intersection of 117 Outlaw Road from RA 20 to community shopping. The request is allow the developer to build a retail store on the property. You can see there is a existing house on the property that will be removed. It is south or next to Mays Chapel Church, and it is an area that is zoned because of its proximity to Brogden Middle School. Planning Board has reviewed the request and recommends that it be approved as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Anyone have any comments on this for the public hearing? If you would, come forward and state your name and address and phone number, please. If we have no comments, do I have a motion that we close the?
You can just close it
Just
without
close
a
it.
motion.
Okay, I'll make, close the public hearing on, the rezoning request.
Mr. Chairman, you can take action on that today if you desire, since nobody was opposed, didn't have it, or you can wait and put it on your agenda at your next meeting.
Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve, Mr.
Have a motion on the floor. Any comments? If no comments, all in favor of the zoning request, show of right hand. Motion carries. I want to go back to the comment section now, and then we'll let Mr. Seegers here.
Yes, he and Mr. Henry Smith are both here.
Pleasure of the board. You want to finish the comment section first, or go ahead and move forward with that?
I'd like to finish mine up.
Okay.
Comments?
Okay.
Commissioner, committee reports? Is that
Committee
what you're
reports.
saying? Okay. How many do we have left?
You and Mr. Pate.
Okay.
So you got 5 minutes and I got 5.
Okay. My reports, I have 2 reports, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The Eastern Carolina RPO report. The RPO is all of the rural planning outside of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO. We met last week to discuss the federal and state funding changes. The board was presented a prioritization 3.0 schedule for 2014 through 2015. This process is part of a 25-year infrastructure planning process and scores existing projects, submits new projects, and DOT calculated and scored projects. MPOs, RPOs, and divisions assign local input points by July 31st. DOT in September finalized scores for all modes. October, DOT develops the draft. The STIP, which is the State Transportation Improvement Program, and conducts public comment periods through May 2015, including air quality conformity analysis. The final step adopted by July 1st, 2015. The final step must be approved by October 1st, 2015 by the Federal Highway Administration to continue receiving federal dollars. As part of this also, the Eastern North Carolina ENC, Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO, and the Rural Planning Organization, the RPO, as you've heard in the past, year and a half, maybe under the previous board, we had a strong coalition movement or a movement within Wayne County and some other counties to put together a coalition where MPOs, RPOs, and the Eastern North Carolina could sort of partnership together and make plans as one and to have more teeth in moving forward with the DOT and transportation for the next 25 years. Discussion and suggestion from Commissioner King, Wayne County, that this coalition be a more formal, structured organization, including bylaws and potential North Carolina General Statute 5013C validation in order to be properly recognized by NCDOT as a regional representative group similar to the Highway 70, Highway 17, and others in the region. In addition, efforts continue to be made to improve existing and proposed freeways as close to interstate standards as possible and support connectivity within the Eastern Transportation Network east of 95. As you can see, I reported last week, remembering the 64 being designated as interstate quality from Greenville over to the interstate to the west. Report on Highway 70 from DOT, the Division 4. That report is 70 west from Highway 581 to I-795. This cost $62.4 million. It is 44% complete and it's 10% ahead of schedule. The 70 east from Wayne Memorial Drive to LaGrange at a cost of $104.4 million. It's 36% complete, 3% ahead of schedule. The other committee that I am a part of is the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. I serve on the executive board. As you know, the District 3, in District 3 represents 12 counties and is an elected board member on this association. In November, under the leadership of President Ray Jeffers, Person County, your association adopted 5 major goals for 2014. Due to time constraints this morning, Mr. Chairman, I wish to mention only 2 that were thoroughly discussed at our executive board's quarterly meeting last week in Raleigh. Nearly all 32 members and officers were in attendance. Goal 3 and Goal 4 of the top 5. Goal 3 is to enhance the state-county relationship through effective communication and the development of a working partnership. Goal 4 is to enhance the ability of county officials to represent counties and the NCACC on local, statewide, and national issues. In reference to these 2 goals, Mr. Chairman, President Jeffers established an Economic Development Task Force, of which I also serve. We had our first meeting in December. In an effort to understand the diversity of program models that exist, the committee members were asked to describe how their county's economic development programs are structured, what the county's role in projects and activities is, and their personal interest that led them to serve on the task force. It was informative to learn how widely divergent the economic development organization structures are and how engaged the committee members are in their county and regional economic development policies and programs, regardless of the structural model within which they operate. We were honored to have a panel of county attorneys from the North Carolina County Attorneys Association join us to talk about their roles in economic development on behalf of their commissioners. Wade, Pitt, and Rockingham attorneys discussed how they engage with commissioners and economic development staff, especially on matters related to business incentives. All highlighted the importance of good communication among all parties. Collaboration between municipalities and counties was equally important. The task force was joined by Dr. Patrick McHugh. He is with the Physical Research Division of the North Carolina General Assembly. for a discussion about economic development incentives. Dr. McHugh is the Fiscal and Economic Impact Analyst for the legislature. His presentation is available on the NCACC website, or I have a copy for your convenience. It's about 35 pages, his PowerPoint presentation. Excellent, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, to pull that up, or we can have copies made for you. Due to last-minute changes in her schedule, Commerce Secretary Sharon Decker was not able to attend last week's Board of Directors meeting, but Dr. Patricia Mitchell, the Assistant Secretary, North Carolina Department of Commerce, joined us with a treasure of information in moving forward about the state's new priority directions for economic development in North Carolina, the department's organizational structure that supports those directions, and the department's vision for the role of county governance in those efforts. The board gleaned much from the presentation and engaged in open dialogue with Dr. Mitchell about the state's efforts and the county's role in these new economic development initiatives. To wrap up, Mr. Chairman, my report, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners has 2 seminars we're very excited to sponsor and encourage the members to attend. February the 10th, Teachers and the Great Economic Debate. This note from the association on this particular seminar just highlights it as education in our state has changed dramatically in recent years. Debates swarm around student achievement, quality instruction, and how best to help our next generation of citizens create good jobs, grow our economy, and engage in our communities. A good teacher can be the difference between a child graduating from high school or dropping out, understanding content or memorizing information, and growing up to earn a decent salary or not. Good teachers shape students for life outside the classroom, making them well-rounded citizens with a capacity and often a desire for lifelong learning. Without highly effective educators, North Carolina students will be ill-prepared for meaningful, well-paying careers, and North Carolina runs the risk of operating without a globally competitive workforce. The Institute of Emerging Issues at NC State University will host this 2014 Emerging Issues Forum, Teachers and the Great Economic Debate, in February 10 and 11 at the Raleigh Convention Center. The forum will serve as a launch pad for discussing the status of public school teachers in our state, and will feature different perspectives from educational leaders in North Carolina, other states, and around the world. The association, the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, serves as a co-sponsor for this forum, which is open to all county commissioners, particularly those with an interest or background in public education. Of course, you can visit the IEI website to learn more and register for this. Pasi Sandberg, the Director General of the Center for International Mobility and Cooperation in Helsinki, Finland, is one of the speakers at the forum. He has agreed to meet with county officials on Tuesday, February the 11th, to discuss educational programs in Finland, which produces some of the highest test scores in the world. The breakfast will be open, and any government and county commissioner, if they wish to attend. And the last seminar that the association is sponsoring is Strategic Planning for Elected Officials. This is in March the 28th. The synopsis of this one is the interactive one-day workshop provides local elected officials an opportunity to walk through a strategic cycle of planning, implementing, and evaluating results. Participants will recognize how components of the planning and evaluation process link together, clarify roles and responsibilities for each step in the process, and begin outlining what they would do and like to accomplish in their own planning, performance measurement, budgeting, and evaluation process. Thank you for the time this morning and this report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Pate.
Yes, sir. Met with the Department of Animal Control Board, and some things that we discussed were the fact that we've got more hours than we got staff, and so Vicki, the manager, is trying to make some decisions on what days we may not be open to the public, so staff can do the job that they have to do in the, shelter itself to, protect, health hazards and that kind of thing for the public, which is the number one thing to be done there. One thing that we did talk about as well is they're gonna make sure that everybody has an application to complete before they see the animals, because if you can't get through that part, then there's no need to go in and look at the animals, because you've got to be a viable owner of animals before you can adopt. And we're gonna limit those visits to 30 minutes. You should be able to go in and get through that facility in that time with no problem. We interviewed last week, Jerry Pate retired from animal control, and we did interview 3 applicants, and we did do a second interview last week, and we have made a recommendation. To give you an idea how busy they are over there, just an example, last year they vaccinated 12,351 animals. Those people really work hard over there. So, I understand what they're doing and what they're faced with. We do have a directive from the state that, we had an inspection that was clean, except for the fact that we do need to upfit our vehicles that are on the road. There are new regulations. So we have sent a letter that Commissioner Raycock has signed to the Animal Welfare Section in Raleigh that we will go ahead and, in this budget year, go ahead and get 2 done this year, then 2 next year, so we'll meet the deadline in 2016. I too went to the Highway 70 corridor meeting on the 16th, and it said we had an economic development report from John Helms from Duke Energy, which I thought was very interesting. Another thing we had was a port update by Stephanie Ayers, and I'm going to tell you about this for a reason. Jobs, as we develop the 70 corridor, we'll see more jobs both at the ports and inland. They've got a wood pellet project with a 20-year lease at the port. The plant in Sims, North Carolina, will run the rail to the port. There will be 70 more jobs there. No, excuse me, 150 more jobs, and they'll be split a third at the port, third at the plant, and third in the logging industry. So as we see the development of the Highway 70 corridor, we're going to see increased jobs not only at the port, but here in Wayne County as well. So that's why that's so important. And as Commissioner Daugherty said, the US 70 I-79 study is going to be about 30 to 45 days late. We got some project updates, and I used to live in Carter County, so I know this is a big issue, the Gallant Channel. They were talking about that when I was there in the 80s. That's how long that thing's been going on. The bids finally go out next week. All the permits are completed. 3.5, 4-year project. Havelock Bypass, the final economic impact study is going to be complete this year. I mean, they got a woodpecker problem there in Craven County. And again, like I said over here, Rosewood Exchange is ahead. Eastern Park is now back on schedule. There was a resolution passed by the 70 corridor, which I think is important. We're going to hear probably more today how it's important to Wayne County. We're opposing anything that threatens the military. We had a report from Danny Washington Newport about the windmill project that threatens Cherry Point's future. So it's important that we take a look at all of it. And we voted for new officers, and we kept the same slate of officers for next year. I was lucky last night to attend the installation of new officers at the New Hope Fire Station. Donald Gray was the Fireman of the Year. And what really impressed, by the way, Commissioner Raycock did the installation. You did a great job, sir. But what really impressed me was the number of young firefighters that are at the New Hope Fire Station. Because we got to grow them in the pipeline to do this as well. And I told those guys last night, I said, it's nice to see some young people in here who have hair, because most of us are like me over there. I think it's something in the water over that part of the county. Also attended Martin Luther King yesterday at the church, and I was very impressed. The gentleman that sang yesterday just almost got me standing up saying hallelujah. And then I found out just this morning we had a musician in our midst that he used to perform with us, so Commissioner Bell, I'd like to see you up there one day. And the gentleman that did speak, Mr. Stewart, that was, it reminded me of when I was a kid back in the very early 60s and the way things were. And I'm glad to see things that have changed. Promised to give an ag update. Is this supposed to be given out? Oh, okay. I'm not sure I've got enough here. Y'all pass that and share that.
Each one of them have.
And I've got a copy for you, too, Steve.
We already have one.
They already
Do you have one? Okay, well, I have some extras up here. I didn't know if I was supposed to pass those out or not. We continue to move forward on our Ag Center. Our group, as I mentioned last time we met, and we broke up into two groups, a facility group and a funding group. During that time, I went ahead and, I'll back up. Eddie Pitzer, who's the head of our facility group, has close ties with the Department of Agriculture since he was in that for so many years. And he made a contact up there, and they were very excited. They asked that we send them an update and history of where we are with this project and what we're planning to do. So along with, I put the letter together and had some help and some editing from Mr. King down there, and because I want to make sure it was right. So we let them know exactly where we are, and they also asked, they wanted a footprint, they wanted a preliminary study. I think I spoke to that last time. Thanks to our GIS and planning department, this is what we're looking at right here. And along with the letter, I sent this, which they got the big map, and then we sent them a flash drive and an introductory video in the whole 9 yards, and went ahead and sent that to them. We are expecting an official response back from their office. Mr. Pitzer has already been contacted by them, and they are very excited, and they want to move forward with this project to convey this land to Wayne County. Of course, we know we got a number of hoops that we've got to go through before that ever becomes realized, but you've got to take one step at a time. So, in addition to that, I've been spending a great deal of time talking to our legislators. Matter of fact, I had both Senators Davis and Pate yesterday. Had a chance to talk with them, and I told them I was going to send them an update, and they're looking for that. I sent an additional update through Deborah Marm to George Holding over the weekend. I had an opportunity at the 70 Corridor Commission to speak with John Chafee for now the NC East Alliance, and he had sent out a press release last week which spoke to the importance of agriculture, not just Wayne County, but Eastern North Carolina, but Wayne County was highlighted in it because we had several of our agribusinesses that are so huge in this county. And he told me, he says, anything that they can do to help promote this, because they see this as an economic driver as well. So, working every angle that we can, we're going to make this happen in Wayne County. This is not only important to Wayne County, but it's important to the region. So that's my update, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Pate. I'm going to keep my comments brief. I did attend the installation of officers at New Hope last night, and Mr. Pate has covered most of it. But one thing I was impressed was that, as many of y'all know, there's New Hope and East Wayne's in the process of merging into one department. And New Hope invited East Wayne to their installation of officers last night, and I think that was a good gesture to show how they're moving forward. And that's the only comments I've got. Okay, we're going to jump forward for just a minute. We have two guests that need to present a resolution that has pressing matters that need to get back to work. The Friends of Seymour, I think, Mr. Smith, Mr. Seegers.
Morning. Thanks, Ben.
All right, gentlemen, good morning. Thank you all for allowing Henry and I to talk to you this morning. I appreciate you getting us on the schedule. I'm going to try to cover everything, and then if I mess up something or forget something, Henry's going to bail me out on the back end. So I first just want to say thank you all for what you've done for the county for the last year. We have dealt with some interesting challenges as it pertains to a Seymour Johnson MAC-based relationship, community-based relationship. We've got, I think several of us know a whole lot more about windmills than we ever wanted to, but think somebody's calling on the red phone, so. All right, we have worked very well together, I believe, as a partnership, not only as the county, but the city and the MAC. And I think we did an outstanding job on addressing the windmills. And but the caveat to that is it's taken our eye off the ball a little bit as it pertains to preparing for a BRAC. I believe what we understand that a BRAC is needed, that the military wants a BRAC, but the political will on Capitol Hill has not quite been there, although we understand that it is right around the corner. We believe that the president will acknowledge and sign off on one this year, and we're expecting one fully in 2017. We know several other communities around the Air Force and all DoD installations have been partnering up with consultants, many of which never let their consultants go from the previous BRAC. So we do feel like we're a little bit behind, and we depleted our war chest, so to speak, on fighting windmills with no outside help from the state or anyone else, which that was largely an effort that's going to benefit the state of North Carolina. But realizing this importance, we did form a group, I'd say about 8 months ago, consisting of Commissioner Bell and Commissioner Keene, Councilman Allen, Councilman Broadway, Lee, Scott Stevens, myself, Henry, and Jimmy, and we started interviewing consulting firms, and we talked to several. Interestingly enough, we talked to one that was very expensive and had a pile of lawyers on staff that actually told us they had a conflict of interest because they were representing the state of Florida and that they thought that they might be making a play for our tankers. So those are the type of things that, while we believe we're all good, Seymour Johnson is a great base. It has high performance standards and excellent people. We need to protect ourselves, not so much for the threats we see today, but from people that are going to be making political plays behind the scenes to come after us. So with that, we bring forward today this proposal. We dusted off the Seymour Support Council. We're going to the new name will be Friends of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. I do have an error on all these lists where I say fund the chamber. That means fund Friends of Seymour Johnson, that entity. So I've outlined in expenses 1 through 4 what I believe we need. Essentially, I was asked to give you what the funds I think we need to get us through June 30th, and then so that's total there. And then the next line item is what we forecast we'll need for the following 12 months. So that would be July 1st, 14 through June 30th, 15. I will add that the consulting firm that we are recommending we go under contract with from DC will be implementing an increase on us of $2,500 a month for February 1st, 2015, going back around for that next 12 months. So we've negotiated one rate that will be going up about $2,500 a month after this first year. So I've got that figure built into the amount needed for 12 months beginning July 1st, 14. The Cassidy Group is the group we're talking about hiring to represent us in Washington. They do also represent Cherry Point. We had many discussions with them and amongst ourselves whether we thought that was a good thing or a bad thing. Ultimately, they were able to convince us that it is a good thing, and that when they walk into a member of Congress's office on Capitol Hill, the fact they represent 2 major installations in North Carolina will probably get them in more doors, and we see that as a strength, not a weakness. Other notes, we just believe the timing is critical. We have been talking about this for the better part of 6 months with a group of folks, and outside that group, I know several of you are aware of what we've been doing and have seen some of these figures. But we would like to hire these guys and bring them on sometime around the 1st of February. And so we would just, I can't illustrate the point enough that the necessity to go ahead and take action now. We believe, as I alluded to earlier, several communities have a head start on us. We did do an outstanding job working on windmills, but now we have to transition over to positioning ourselves well for the next BRAC. Henry, would you like to add anything?
Just a couple of quick points I'd like to add. First of all, certainly, I want to make sure that this council or this commission understands this is not really a new expense. This is something that for probably a decade, we were funding a lobbyist, consultant who worked with us in Washington. That was Neil Rhodes. We did grow, when the economy turned down several years ago, we stopped doing that to save the money. A year or two ago, we got back involved with the same consultant, Neil Rhodes. That was a one-man show. I believe we were paying $10,000 a month for him, as I indicate, for a decade, and then for approximately 12 months after that. When that contract expired, this wind turbine project spun up, and we diverted our attention and diverted our resources to just addressing that concern. That concern still lingers a little bit. We thought we had it beat, but there's been, as you may have seen in the News Argus last night, some movement there, and we believe that issue will bear some continued attention. That's why we have in our budget continued support, at least for a time, with McGuire Woods. But we believe it's time to get back to Washington and do the job there. As being indicated, we know that there are other bases that are looking at the tankers that we have scheduled to come back into Seymour, the KC-46s that we envision will be arriving here in 2 or 3 years. We lost the KC-10s. I believe most of you have been in this community long enough to remember that we had KC-10s at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. And a couple of years before BRAC, suddenly those KC-10s got sent to McGuire Air Force Base to protect that from potential BRAC action. We've got the same kind of concept going on now where we know of one base that has specifically said they want the KC-46s that are anticipated to come to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. So we've got to move now to keep those assets at Seymour so that when a 2017 BRAC comes around, we aren't more vulnerable than we feel like we need to be, or than we feel like we are today. We feel good about things, but we've got to be vigilant. If we aren't vigilant, it's a $1.5 million a day economic impact to Wayne County that is at risk, and we feel that we must continue that effort. Hope you guys will go ahead and support this expenditure so we can get back on the offensive and do what needs to be done to protect Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Thank you.
One other just valid point that Henry and I did want to point out is that the city of Goldsboro has not approved the same funding, but we anticipate them approving almost matching funding. So with your participation and the city's participation, that'll get us to a good level. And then we intend to have a private fundraising effort annually to raise private dollars to go with this, to pair up with this as well. And we anticipate 50 to 100,000 in private dollars being put towards this. So it will continue to be a community-wide effort. And again, we appreciate your support. March 29th will be when we have the community fundraising event. It will be at Walnut Creek Country Club. We do have Major General Stephen Quast scheduled to come and be our keynote speaker at that event. So we hope that event will further spur community support and awareness of what we're facing. You gentlemen have any questions for us?
Any questions?
I have a question.
Mr. Pate?
Yes.
That 5 months total that you need there, the 59,585, is that from us? Is that the total needed from us and the city?
That's the total from you,
Okay.
or you all.
I just want to be sure I understood that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty?
I do have a question while I've got you here. At the Highway 70 corridor meeting, Havelock is really concerned about the windmills farm going in down there, and I would hope that maybe we can assist them in regards to some of our efforts here of battling the windmill farm. That evidently is really going to jeopardize their mission down there.
It is, and we have offered some support in the fact of just telling them what we know and how we handled it. But the biggest supporting thing will be the new law that's in place. I think the local community is trying to stifle the program before it gets to where the permitting process occurs. But I do think the good thing about that is they are dealing with a responsible developer from what we've seen. The developer we were working with on this Pantego project, did not play very nice. And but we believe the developer on the Newport project is playing with all the cards on the table, and they are having open dialogue with the local community. So I think there's a very good chance they will work something out. And worst case scenario, the new law has a chance to work, and that'll be a good test for how protected we are and how much work we've done and what else we need to do, I guess.
And Commissioner Dory, I'll just say that I hope you point out to them, or in your next meeting, you point out to them that we were largely responsible for getting House Bill 484 passed. We didn't get a lot of financial support from the other communities in making sure that got done. And I think Wayne County deserves a lot of credit for the fact that there are protections in place to help the folks from Havelock and that community.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, quick question. What's the county's funding on the MAC committee? What is, we have it,
the president, what we're presently,
Yeah.
60,000.
okay, so this is in addition to that, is that correct?
I wouldn't say it's in addition to it. This is total dollars what we need. So you can add, this would be in addition to that, to get you through June 30th of this year. This would be, I don't know how much is left out of that budget, but that 59,585 is what we need if we engage these folks that we're outlining in 1 through 4 to the end of the year, till the end of your year, June 30th. And then the 150 number is what we need, for the next 12-month cycle.
And that would be inclusive of the 60 that you had already sort of pigeonholed or allocated.
That will be inclusive of the
Include-
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Miss- Miss-
I have
Go ahead, go ahead.
follow-up, please. The lobbyists from Washington that we're talking about, once the BRAC is done, do you see a point where we might maybe not have a lobbyist up there, or do you think that's something we need to have for the long term? Have you thought about that after BRAC?
Well, we would make a case that we need to retain them for some time, because in the BRAC, they're going to be winners and losers. And if there are any losers out there, more than likely those missions are going to need to be housed somewhere else. And we would strongly recommend retaining a relationship with someone up there, so we might be able to identify some opportunities for Seymour through someone else's unfortunate plight. So I would think we would maintain them at a pretty elevated level immediately following the BRAC, and then hopefully we can negotiate something down on more of just a retainer for a longer period of time.
I would agree with that. I think it's great reason to hope that we will see all the drawdowns in 2017, but I expect that we could be looking at repeated rounds of BRAC going forward. Certainly, we've had, I believe, 5 rounds in the last 25 years, and and several of them were maybe 4 years apart. And so we may need to remain vigilant. It'll depend on what the outlook is after the 2017 BRAC.
Can I have one more?
Yeah.
Just a comment is that I want to follow up the comment I made in the 8 o'clock pre-agenda is that I'm of the opinion that, Eastern North Carolina and Goldsboro and Seymour, we feel like even though the state is got their own MAC committee and so forth, and we're going to work with them. We've made a commitment to do that, is that during this BRAC coming up, that we do not need to leave any stone unturned as far as Seymour is concerned. And that was the thinking behind this, and I agree with what we're doing here. I just want to support you in what you're doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to thank the collaboration between the city of Goldsboro and the county of Wayne, which again started 6 months ago with everyone at the table, and just really appreciate that collaborative effort. The funds I went to our finance director and asked Ms. Holt 6 months ago what were we doing annually. It was 60,000. The city was doing 60,000. This year is 60,000. They were doing 60,000 again. We had a balance here about a month ago of around 23,000 that we had not spent. The city had about the same. Getting through June 30, I've asked Mr. Seegers and Mr. Bell, we were talking about this at our last meeting, to formulate a plan, and they have done that. And again, it was in sort of a gentleman's agreement that what the county would do, the city would do. So as we move forward, we would like to see the city match us dollar per dollar. And of course, if it did not get up to that point, then there would be private people to come up and fund it. But the way it's laid out, I think it's admirable that you've done this. Certainly, we can't afford to lose the 570 million plus that's turned over about 4.2 times according to Commerce. We can't lose per year. We just can't afford to lose that in Wayne County. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we adopt this plan and move forward.
Have a motion on the floor that we adopt this plan. Would y'all, Mr. Parker?
Ask a question. Does that include signing the agreement that has been prepared?
Yes, sir.
And the budget amendment that will be necessary to fund it?
Yes, sir. It's been indicated to me by the finance director that the funds are there, more than enough to cover this.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Would someone like to read the resolution, or are you comfortable with it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a resolution on the floor. Any other comments? All in favor, show of sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for what you do.
Consent agenda. Consent agenda.
Mr. Parker, the comment section's at 10, and we have another presentation at 10. And we wanted to move the, under new business, we wanted to move up the resource officer from the sheriff. I mean, we're pushing for time.
If they come up and speak real fast.
Barbara?
Well, we asked Mr. Johnson to be here if y'all had any questions, and he's been here for a while. I was just wondering, under unfinished business, if we can kind of finish that real quickly.
Let's tackle that one.
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Just if you had questions.
I mean, if
You
anyone's got questions for Mr. Johnson, under unfinished business, consideration continuing paying for the radio coverage.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayo.
I'd like to make a motion to enter into a 6-month contract with WGBR to air the Wayne County Commissioners meeting from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at a price of $425 for each meeting. That's in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Does that include the budget amendment?
Yes.
I have a motion on the floor. Any comments?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pate.
Just one thing, there was some commentary about that, many times they get cut off because our meetings last so long. So I would like to just recommend to this board in the future, if we have what we consider to be very important parts of our agenda, that we move that to the first 3 hours of our meetings. Just a recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Pate. And also, if we extend this contract for 6 months, us as commissioners, we need to do our homework, and we need to get out and really find out who is listening to the broadcast. I mean, if there's a lot of people listening, no problem in extending the contract. But if not, unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with it again.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
I understand that if we could, at 9 o'clock on first and third Tuesday, Mr. Bill Johnson has some numbers that he has come up with, I believe, what the listening audience is. And could I just ask him to step up and relate those numbers to us? Who's listening at 9 o'clock on the first and third Tuesday? How many listeners are listening to WGBR at that time?
Well, good morning, everybody. Delighted to be here. Curtis Media licenses rating services from Arbitron. We get county by county reports that are always high or low depending on the number of diaries placed in the market, but we've consistently seen on WGBR audience numbers in the 10 to 15,000 per week range in terms of circulation. The hourly rating of the station from anywhere from 6 in the morning to 7 at night can typically be anywhere from 800 to 1,500 listeners at any given time. So somewhere in that range would be a logical place to assume that 9 o'clock would be about that kind of an audience, depending on what folks are doing. So that's kind of where it would be when we start. Now, when it ends is going to be another storyline, and depending on content. So,
Any other questions for Mr.?
No, just a comment, though. I've often received texts while I'm sitting up here from people who are listening on the radio. Sometimes the texts are advising us to do things differently, but I'm glad to know that they're listening. Again, like I said last time, not everybody has a computer and they can, live stream on this stuff, and a lot of people just like to walk around their house and listen, so they don't have to sit right there. So I'm in support of this. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty?
I heard those numbers, and you're right, from the beginning to the end in regards to that. But my concern is trying to actually hone in regards to the numbers of people that are actually listening to this broadcast on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. And that's rather difficult to do, wouldn't you agree?
I think it's impossible to do.
It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of statistics that advertisers will ask.
Right.
And then the response to that as a broadcaster is, does it work? Is it effective? And that's where you have to get into you get beyond the numbers and more into, well, what works for that company or for that individual or for that entity? And in this case, we would ask the question, is it effective? Is it an effective way for taxpayers to hear the business of the county? So from a number standpoint, it would be the same response as we'd give to an advertiser. Does it work?
I would hope during the balance of this fiscal year that we would make efforts to try to glean who actually is listening and a cost benefit. Because we're looking at a cost to provide that service, and we want to try to find out who's benefiting as a result of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kamari?
I would just like to add one small happening. When I was a director of OKN, we often felt like that if we had an issue and we spoke to a principal of a school or a minister, we could multiply that by some number and possibly come up with an estimate of what a group might support. A good minister might come in contact with 500 or 600 people, and a principal's going to come in contact with between parents, grandparents, cousins, and everything. If he had a school of 800 or 900, he might somewhere come in contact with 1,500, 2,000 people a day. Last week I was at a meeting of my college alumni, and just coincidentally, sitting right next to me, the young man turned to me and said, "I heard y'all on the radio the other day." I don't know how many that could be multiplied by, but Mr. Doherty, I just thought I'd toss that in to say it's according to who you might be talking to as to how many people that might be of a similar interest, and therefore, this young man, if he's listening now, he might smile with some interest. I won't call his name, but he's a public person who travels around the county pretty much dealing with young people. I'll just leave it at that. So I feel like he come in contact with a fair number of people every day. Just on the side.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Zeckow.
Mr. Mayor?
Real quick, I just wanted to say that I'm not sure, you're right. I don't think we can say who was listening and where from, for the simple reason that the calls that I'm getting, again, like I said at the last commission meeting, are from agriculture people that are working in the fields, that are riding their tractors. They are listening to us. People, anyone that works outside, whether it be a foreman or a construction crew or a wildlife resource people, anyone that's outside needs to have access, if they don't have their computer with them and can't get it. But the main thing I'm concerned about is that we have shut-ins, and a lot of them in the northern part of the county. And Mr. Daughter, I will make a commitment that if we can get a survey up in the northern part of the county during the next 6 months, we will certainly attempt to come up with some numbers that we can actually see. But the key is that shut-ins, people do not have computers. You'd be surprised how many people in Wayne County don't have computers or don't use computers. And they listen on radio. So I just wanted to put that out, Mr. Daughter, that I'll make a commitment on mine. I understand you have some possibly in your district also. Let's partner up and see if we can come up with some numbers. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank
Mr.
you,
Chairman, I make one comment about what Vice Chairman Cromartie.
Yes, sir.
In Raleigh, which is not Wayne County, but in Raleigh, radio audiences are determined by electronic devices now. So individuals carry electronic devices. We can actually hear and learn that people actually listen to commercials. An electronic device in the Raleigh market is worth 3,000 listeners. So there is a projection in terms of the number of people who say they do and the number who actually do.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Johnson? Do I have a motion on the floor? It's a pleasure to the board. All in favor, show of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. All right, we're really crunched for time now.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Public comments.
Public comments? It's a little past 10 o'clock. Public comments. Limit your time to 4 minutes, please. State your name, address, and phone number.
Tom Drew, P.O. Box 587, Goldsboro 27533. I would address ahead, getting up, hold your nose, here comes a happy camper, though that may activate the time a citizen has to speak. Hopefully not to, though, with fellow citizens and the commissioners. And been a problem of parties to this party being absent without leave. Is Steve King leaving? Can I come back when he comes back?
Your 4 minutes is running.
I know that, and he's running out the back door. That's absent without leave. I didn't hear him say he needed to leave before this thing began. Seek to ask him a question about the grand slam sham of a forum held at Lane Tree November 7th. Walking in, I inquired of the president of the chamber a copy of all questions received in writing, asked and unasked. She said they would be fielded from the audience. And that Steve King participated. At its very end, what should have been the best forum in Wayne County ever had. The ability of a citizen to ask a question was reserved to the end. Even that is in question. That's the question for Steve King. Did the moderator at that point in the last couple minutes say if you got a question, raise your hand? Or did he handpick Phyllis Moore and Steve King, the only two questions received from the audience? Even the word received is in question. And the December 20th appeal to the State Board of Election hearing of the decision of the Wayne County Board of Elections on election protests is in limbo. Article 1, Section 10 of the North Carolina Constitution says all elections shall be free. There is a significant fee to file a motion in Wake Superior Court. I'd ask the county attorney, can I
begin the contesting of the elections in 2014 today?
We'll have to look at the statute to see when it's.
When can you, when you're aware the problems exist and persist, the day after the election, is that too soon to begin contesting the next elections?
Yes.
Because I do not like to wait till the last minute, but these perplexing realities, the responses and lack of responses that I get, 2 minutes, I do like that. And I give credit most time, this commission is a little bit more on, public comment does run on time, more so than the trains here than they do at the Board of Education. As addressing there, you got to list what you speaking about, and all my emails read out advanced education in journalism, advances education in democracy, thus advances education in suicide prevention. Those three are written in priority. Those should have been the three hot topics to be addressed at that forum. Their censorship thereof has my high priority right now. Last year's word was perplexing. And this is one perplexing matter running over into this year that I will stay on the top of and give the citizens a high-quality report about the quality of that forum. Where I've sought before the forum from those participating their definition of the word forum, and it's not forthcoming. As I said at the Board of Education meeting, I was neither shocked nor surprised what I found. My last words then, to this day, I'm still recovering. Welcome open discussion with anyone here about what happened that day. Question is, was anyone here there that day? That witnessed it? Provide a second opinion? Welcome back, Steve King. Thank you, Mr. Bush, for your comments. Anyone else?
Having our work session next, we need to take about a 3-minute break for them to change the EDD so we can put it on a separate one as requested in the brief.
Okay. Let's take a 3-minute break so they can get set up for the work session.